I had these goggles on, which are really high fashion. But then they had to tape it to my head.
Ever wondered who the biggest jerks in country music are? Well, you're in for a wild ride. From epic feuds to scandalous behavior, some country stars have made a name for themselves in all the wrong ways. In this video, we're looking into the 10 most notorious country artists who turned heads for their bad attitudes and drama-filled lives. Stick around. You won't believe some of these jaw-dropping stories. Number 10. Toby Keith. Toby Keith is a name that makes you think of patriotic and party songs. Of all the country music stars, Toby became one of the most popular with hits like Beer for My Horses and Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue. With songs about American pride, he became well known very quickly, and his fan base grew. On the other hand, Toby had a bad attitude that made a lot of people dislike him. That's why he's on our list of the worst country music jerks. When Toby chose to go to war with the Dixie Chicks in public, it became one of the most famous events in his career. Toby didn't think twice about attacking Natalie Maines, the lead singer, and her friends after she said something bad about President George W. Bush in 2003. He turned the row into a full-on fight, and his words were meant to shut down anyone who tried to disagree with his political views. However, his answer wasn't just mean, it was actually cruel. At one of his shows, he even showed a skewed picture of Natalie Maines with Saddam Hussein, which made their fight even worse. It wasn't just politics that made Toby Keith act that way. It was personal, and he made sure everyone knew it. Toby is known for more than just his crazy fights with other people. He's also known for being rude and cocky around the media. You could be sure that Toby would insult anyone who tried to give him a bad review. He often got angry and tense during conversations, especially when the reporter wasn't praising him. Toby wouldn't put up with people who didn't see him as the hero he thought he was. One bad question could quickly turn into a full-on fight. Not only did he not treat the press well, he also didn't follow any business rules and expected everyone to follow them. Then there was the famous time when a fan tried to grab his leg at one of his shows. Most artists would just brush it off, but Toby kicked the fan away and kept playing as if nothing had happened. Some fans cheered him on, but for many, this seemed like an unnecessary fight. It was clear he was angry, and he was nothing like the nice guy next door image that country music is known for. Besides all of that, Toby wasn't really easy to work with behind the scenes. People who didn't agree with him or his ways often got into fights with record labels and other people. Toby didn't want to give in. He was sure that his way of doing things was the only way to move forward. That meant he had to turn down a record deal because they didn't want to put out a song he loved. He was always sure of himself, but that often came across as cocky, which made him hard to work with in the business. Toby's angry personality may have helped him sell millions of records, but it also made way for a different country star with their own problems who used controversy in a very different way to become famous. Now, let's talk about Billy Ray Cyrus and how much he wants to be in the news. Number 9. Billy Ray Cyrus. Billy Ray Cyrus first became a household name in the early 1990s with his huge hit Achy Breaky Heart. Country music fans fell in love with his hit song about broken hearts and dancing, and for a while, it looked like Billy Ray was here to stay. He was the perfect country star of the 1990s, with his hairstyle and high-energy shows. It wasn't as easy as his lyrics made it sound behind the scenes of his success. His daughter, Miley Cyrus, became famous when she became the star of Hannah Montana, and Billy Ray was quick to join the fun. It often seemed like he was more interested in staying important through her success than just being there for her as a father. Billy Ray wanted to be in the spotlight more as Miley's fame grew. Instead of letting her shine on her own, he was always there to make sure everyone knew that he was Miley's big break. When things went wrong for Miley, Billy Ray didn't hold back when he blamed others. People saw him openly accusing Hannah Montana of destroying his family, saying that the show and Miley's rise to fame were to blame. But a lot of people couldn't help but wonder if his rise to fame was what started the trouble in the first place. His family seemed to be in danger, but he seemed to be using Miley's fame to help his own business. Even Billy Ray's personal life wasn't good for him. His many divorces made the news. The most recent one happened in 2022, when he left his wife, Tish, for a woman who was much younger than him. Fans and enemies alike didn't understand what he was doing, and a lot of them thought he was selfish for not caring about how his actions affected his family. His love life was a mess, and he seemed to care more about his fame than anything else because he was always wanting attention. People in the music business knew that Billy Ray expected to be treated better than others. He kept acting like he was a big star and should get the same attention and perks, even though his career had already reached its peak. A different country star, however, was making news in a very different way, using controversy to help his rise to fame. Jason Aldean is the next person we'll talk about. This man has been in the news for all the wrong reasons. Number 8. Jason Aldean. With hits like Dirt Road Anthem and Burning It Down, Jason Aldean's fame grew very quickly. Fans loved his rough country sound and rebellious personality, and his shows were known for being very lively. Aldean was famous and had hit songs, but his personal life was full of trouble, and it didn't take long for people to find out about it. It was a big incident for Aldean in 2012 when he was caught cheating on his wife with Brittany Kerr, who used to be on American Idol. Pictures of the two kissing went online, and people were angry right away. Fans who used to look up to him felt misled, and his reputation took a big hit. Aldean said sorry in public, but the damage had already been done. His family used to look great, but his actions showed that he wasn't as committed as his country songs made him sound. There were more incidents after that, though, and again in 2015, Aldean got into trouble. This time, it was because of a Halloween outfit. He dressed up as Lil Wayne for the holiday, but people all over the country were angry that he did it in blackface. Some people might have thought it was just a bad joke, but a lot of people thought it was a big mistake and an obvious sign of disrespect. People were angry and hurtful right away, and Aldean had to talk about the problem. But instead of taking it in stride, he seemed to just shrug it off and not fully say sorry for what he did. That attitude showed up again on social media, where Aldean used it. His posts often caused a stir, whether he was talking about politics or sharing content that was offensive. People thought of Aldean as a haughty and out-of-touch country star because of the blunt, no-holds-barred tone of his social media posts. There were times when his posts went viral for the wrong reasons. They often led to heated arguments and more criticism from both fans and foes. Aldean's song, Try That in a Small Town, made the news again in 2023. Several things about the music video that was shot in front of a courthouse with a past of racial violence made people look twice. A lot of people didn't like the song's words because they were seen as encouraging violence and division. A lot of people thought the video was racist, and it made Aldean's already troubled public image even worse. The next country star whose actions in public caused just as much controversy was Blake Shelton. This man's personal life was just as messy as his work life. Number 7. Blake Shelton. People fell in love with Blake Shelton after seeing him on The Voice. He is now one of the biggest stars in country music. Blake seemed like he could never do anything wrong because of how funny and laid back he was. What he did behind the scenes, though, said a very different story. Blake has a reputation for being much more troublesome than people thought, despite how nice he seems on TV. It was Blake's old tweets that caused a lot of trouble because many people found them insulting. Blake hadn't been shy about making fun of women and LGBTQ+ people in the past. His tweets were full of hurtful things that made both fans and critics wonder how someone who was so well-liked could be so careless with words. Blake didn't really say sorry when the reaction happened. He didn't take it seriously and didn't seem sorry for the harm his tweets caused. In this case, the person said, "Sorry, not sorry," which made a lot of people angry. Then there was the messy split-up with Miranda Lambert, another country star. They were one of the most talked-about pairs in country music, but in 2015, they broke up. Their divorce was a mess, and Blake wasn't very good at keeping his thoughts to himself. In the news, he said mean things about Miranda that were almost meant to make fun of her. Blake did not handle their breakup in a nice way. He didn't seem interested in quietly moving on. Instead, he used his split to promote himself, which many of his fans didn't like. Blake had problems in more than one area of his life, though. He also made it clear that he didn't like old-fashioned country music. Blake made fun of older country music styles in 2013 by saying they were boring and out of date. He even said that Grandpa's music was no longer something people wanted to hear. This was rude to a lot of longtime country fans who really cared about the genre's roots. Some saw it as a sign that Blake cared more about his fame than the history of country music. Blake was just as cold with his fans when he wasn't on stage. People may have liked him on TV, but when the cameras were off, he was known for ignoring and even being rude to his fans. Fans said he ignored them when they asked for pictures or autographs, and some fans thought he didn't really respect their support. The accessible and friendly guy people saw on TV wasn't always like that. The next person we'll talk about is David Allan Coe. He behaved in an even worse way than Chris. Number 6. David Allan Coe. David Allan Coe made a name for himself in country music by putting on an outlaw look that spoke to both fans and reviewers. With hits like "You Never Even Called Me By My Name" in the 1970s, Coe quickly became the voice of the group of people who didn't like the establishment. He was a big star in the outlaw country scene because of how rough he was and how dirty his music was. His songs made him sound tough, but he was much darker inside than that. Coe's mainstream hits made him famous, but his underground records showed a side of him that many people found scary. Coe's words were full of hurtful and racist language, and some of his songs even promoted harmful stereotypes. People still heard these records, even though they were never meant to be played on the radio. They caused a lot of trouble for him that would last for years. People were angry about what he said, but Coe didn't say sorry. Instead, he played up the shock value of what he said and said that the criticism was part of his outlaw image. In addition to his songs, Coe often lied about his criminal past to make himself seem more rebellious. He said crazy things about being in jail with famous criminals like Charles Manson, but a lot of people thought these stories were made up or greatly overstated to fit his tough guy image. Coe carefully created an image by telling lies, whether it was to get attention or to add to his bad boy story. But Coe's tough guy image didn't stay in his music. It also showed in how he interacted with other singers and people in the music business. His rough past caused him to fight with other artists many times, and some of them couldn't stand his behavior and attitude. People in the country scene didn't like him because he wouldn't compromise and always wanted to cause problems. Coe's money situation was like his music, chaotic and risky. He filed for bankruptcy in 2008 because he owed the IRS a lot of money. His big-headedness made it hard for him to handle his money, and years of spending more than he had finally caught up with him. Next, we'll talk about Garth Brooks, another country star who had a problem with their image, but in a different way. Brooks was in charge of every part of his business, but also caused a lot of trouble. Number 5. Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks didn't just make country music different, he made it completely different. He became one of the most famous country artists of all time, with songs that broke records and hits that people will never forget. But as his fame grew, he felt the need to be in charge of every part of his work. Garth wasn't just a performer. He was a professional who oversaw everything, from his music to his look, to make sure he stayed at the top of country music. Being in charge of Brooks's job meant more than just making sure everything was perfect. It also meant controlling how people saw him. He worked very hard on his image, to the point where it was sometimes too much. People found it hard to work with him because he was so focused on being great in everything he did, not just his music. In this digital age, Garth went one step further by refusing to join streaming services like Spotify. This made a lot of his fans angry. Other artists used streaming to reach new fans, but Garth wouldn't let his music be on these sites. Many of his fans thought this was rude because they wanted to hear his songs more easily. His relationships with other artists also showed how controlling he was. Brooks didn't work with younger artists very often and often acted like he was better than them. He seemed distant, which made it hard to get close to him. Many artists felt like they were fighting with him instead of working together. Fans thought they knew what Garth would do next, but he shocked them by saying he was retiring in 2021, and then coming back quickly after. Fans were confused by his sudden return, since he hadn't given a good reason for leaving in the first place. But while Garth takes back the top spot, a different country star is making trouble in a much darker way. Let's look at LeAnn Rimes and the trouble she's made on and off the stage. Number 4. LeAnn Rimes. LeAnn Rimes made a big splash in country music when she was only 13. Her voice is so powerful that it can knock you out. With hits like Blue, her strong voice made her a star right away, and it seemed like everyone was lining up to see her. LeAnn was the next big thing in country music. She won several Grammys before she turned 20. But as her fame grew, so did the idea that she was tough, selfish, and cruel. LeAnn's relationship with star Eddie Cibrian was one of the most well-known parts of her life. They were both married to other people at the time. When pictures of them kissing came out, their secret relationship became public very quickly. It caused a lot of trouble, and both of their marriages ended in public view. A lot of people called LeAnn a homewrecker right away, and she didn't exactly handle the situation with ease. She didn't take responsibility. Instead, she blamed others and said she had to follow her heart. The news outlets loved it, and for many fans, it ruined her image for good. LeAnn's diva behavior didn't stop after she had an affair. Behind the scenes, she was known for making crazy requests and calling off shows at the last minute. As time went on, she became more cocky, and fans were let down when she canceled shows or made ridiculous requests. There were times when LeAnn made it clear that she thought the world should meet all of her needs. For example, she refused to act unless everything was perfect. The trouble didn't end with her job, though. LeAnn had a messy home life, too. It was one of the most shocking things she ever did in her career when she sued her own father, saying he had stolen money from her. Before she sued, her father had worked hard to help her start her job when she was a child. Many people thought this was an unappreciative move, especially since her father had given up a lot for her to succeed. She seemed cold and ready to cut ties with people who helped her when it was convenient for her. In the next part, we'll talk about Morgan Wallen's crazy life. Wallen is a country star whose rough behavior offstage makes his huge success even stranger. Number 3. Morgan Wallen. Morgan Wallen became one of the biggest stars in country music, with hits like Whiskey Glasses and 7 Summers. His rough around the edges singing and party songs made him a star right away, with millions of fans. But as his fame grew, so did his risky behavior. What Wallen did behind the music would soon catch up with him in a big way. A video going viral in 2021 of Wallen using a racial slur shook up his business. The video, which was taken by a neighbor, went viral on social media very quickly. Right away, friends, fellow artists, and critics all spoke out against what he did. When he used the N-word in such an informal and insulting way, it hurt a lot of people. Wallen could not fix his bad image, no matter how many times he said sorry. It would be hard for him to get rid of the bad press. But that wasn't the only problem that Wallen caused. At the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, Wallen completely disregarded the safety rules that were in place to keep people safe. He was caught partying without a mask, which is against the rules for social distance and bad for his health. When he was supposed to perform on Saturday Night Live, things got worse. He was kicked off the show after being caught kissing strange women at bars and parties. He didn't use the platform properly. Instead, he showed he didn't care about other people's safety, which made him look even more immature and careless. People kept noticing how Wallen behaved when he wasn't on stage. There were many stories of him getting into trouble at bars, often with physical fights, because he had a bad temper. Besides that, he got in trouble with the government more than once. His frequent run-ins with the law and blunt personality made it seem like he either couldn't or wouldn't take responsibility for his actions. People in Wallen's field were aware of his pride. A lot of people who worked with him said he was hard to get along with, didn't care about his co-workers, and was rude to staff. He became more spoiled as he became more famous, and many people in the music business found it hard to work with him. His skill couldn't hide the fact that he often acted like he was better than everyone else. Wallen's work hasn't been hurt too much by all of his problems. He is still one of the biggest names in country music, and his fans will always back him up. But many people don't really respect him because of how careless he is off stage. This is especially true for people who have seen him act like a spoiled, childish star. Next, we'll look at the life of a different country music star who has made a lot of noise. She has been in a lot of trouble and drama in the past, and it's not just because of her songs. Number 2, Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's rise to fame has been nothing short of remarkable. She started out in country music, but quickly rose to the top of the pop charts with hits like Love Story and You Belong With Me. But as her singing career took off, so did her image, which was a mix of the sweet, innocent girl next door and the smart, cunning businesswoman. Taylor didn't just connect with fans through her music, she also used her personal life to keep herself in the news. It was at the 2009 MTV Video Music Awards that Taylor did something that became famous. Kanye West made Taylor the victim when he cut her off in the middle of her winning speech to say that Beyoncé should have won instead. But instead of moving on, she used the situation to boost her image as the harmless underdog. She turned being shamed in public into a marketing goldmine. Taylor talked about the event a lot in interviews and even in her songs, making it seem like she was always the one who was hurt by others. This carefully crafted picture made her more famous, but it also seemed to block out any deeper thought about what was going on. It was 2019, and Taylor was in a public fight again. This time it was with music producer Scooter Braun. After Braun's company bought the rights to all of her old music, the drama was all about her fight to get back control of her music rights. Taylor told the public that Braun was hurting her job and taking advantage of her work, making her look like a victim. For months, the public fight was all over the news, and Taylor seemed to care less about the court case and more about making herself look like a victim to get people to feel sorry for her. Her fans came together to support her, but some said she was trying to change the story to help her business. That wasn't the only time Taylor made her private life into a public show. Writing songs about her ex-boyfriends has become her whole job. Every breakup has become a hit. From All Too Well to Dear John, Taylor's words are often a public call-out, leaving her ex-boyfriends to deal with the chaos. Many of these songs seem to have been carefully timed. It was almost like Taylor used her relationships to get attention and press, making her look like the artist who everyone doesn't understand. But Taylor has called out more than just ex-boyfriends. She has been known to use her power to control how people see her and how they feel about her. Small companies and fans who have used her likeness in fan art have been sent letters telling them to stop. This makes her seem too controlling. It makes sense for her to want to protect her brand, but a lot of people see this as another way she's trying to control every part of her public image. Moving on, we'll talk about Charlie Rich's legacy. Rich had a bad image because of the bad things he did and how angry he was. Number 1. Charlie Rich. Charlie Rich was a star in the country music world. His smooth voice and hits like Behind Closed Doors made him a mainstay in the 1970s country scene. Charlie was a flexible artist who got a lot of people's attention with his mix of country, soul, and pop music. Even though Rich was very successful, he was also known for having a short fuse and acting in strange ways. Not only was he an outlaw in his songs, but he was also one in real life. When he was asked to give the Entertainer of the Year award at the Country Music Association Awards in 1975, it was one of the most shocking things that ever happened. He didn't just tell everyone who won. He took the package, took out the card with John Denver's name on it, and lit it on fire right in front of them. The crowd was shocked, a shocking act of rudeness in public. And it didn't take long for people to figure out that Charlie was mad, not only because he didn't like John Denver, but also because country music was changing. The kind of music Charlie didn't like was Denver's, which was more popular and had folk influences. A lot of people didn't like it, but it was a symbolic act of resistance. Charlie was very hard to guess because he was drunk a lot. A lot of his angry outbursts were caused by drinking, which hurt his job and relationships with other people in the same line of work. Many public problems happened because of his anger, and as time went on, his behavior became more unpredictable. He was known for getting drunk before shows, speaking badly, and sometimes even leaving the stage. Even though he was very talented, he was always late, which made him a tough artist to work with. Charlie didn't seem to be as interested in his music as he was in showing off his fiery personality. It became well known that Charlie didn't like the newer forms of country music at all. His dislike for the new wave of country pop acts and the younger musicians who liked a more commercial sound grew over time. Fans who liked the new wave of country stars often turned away from him because of this. He looked angry and out of touch because he wouldn't accept change. Even though a lot of artists change and adapt to new styles, Charlie stuck to his idea of the angry, old-school country rebel. Rich was both a hero and a cautionary story because he was always changing his mind. Because he was angry and drunk, he had crazy mood swings that made him a dangerous person in the business. Even though Charlie Rich had a lot of hits, his success was harmed by the fact that he often used bad language and hurt feelings. As this list comes to a close, his story is a good lesson that talent alone isn't always enough to keep you from getting hurt. That's a wrap on the 10 worst jerks in country music history. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Click on the next video popping up on your screen for more.